Welcome to the video lecture on programming in C. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss the topic of functions in C. But before we discuss the functions, let us look at the characteristics of trains that all of us are familiar with. The idea of trains and functions are very closely related. A train is an interlinking of multiple coaches. Each coach is an independent unit which can accommodate a certain number of passengers. Although the coaches are fundamentally same, they are organized differently into different classes. So we can say that a train is a collection of coaches of different types. The number of coaches to be there in a train is not fixed. So each train can have different number of coaches, and coaches can also be added and removed whenever needed. They are identified based on a unique coach number. Although the number of coaches may differ among the trains, there is one coach mandatory in all the trains, which is the engine. The movement of all other coaches is controlled by the engine. Without an engine, a train won't run. Only if a coach is connected to the engine, it will move forward. Just like a train, C programs consist of small units of modules called functions. The functions are interlinked or chained through function calls. Each program can have any number of functions as per the choice of the programmer. There is no limit on the number of functions allowed in a program. Functions are identified by the unique function names that are assigned by the programmers. Like the train engine, the mandatory function of every C program is called the main function. Every program must have exactly one main function. Execution always commences from the main function and also ends at the main function. All other functions in the program must be linked with the main function by using function calls, otherwise they won't be executed. Here is the syntax of a function definition in C. It should start with the return type, which we will discuss later, followed by the name of the function and two brackets. The brackets may be empty or may contain some argument names. Then there are two braces which define the boundary of the function. Within the braces, we can have the statements to be executed by that function. At the beginning of functions, variables are declared. We will discuss the concept of variables later. This is an example of a function definition. In this example, the return type is void, name of the function is main, and it contains only one executable statement, which is a call to the printf function. When we develop the logic of a program, we must separate the independent functionalities into different functions rather than putting the entire code into a single main function. This is an example of such a program with one main function and three additional functions for performing the task of addition, multiplication, and sorting. Each function is given a different name. They are called from the main function. Generally, the function that calls another function is called the calling function, and the function that is being called is referred to as the called function. In this example, main function is the calling function and the other three functions are called functions. The actual implementation of the function is termed as the function definition or function body. When a function call is executed, control leaves the calling function, enters the definition or body of the called function, executes all the statements between the two braces of the called function, and upon reaching the closing brace, control returns back to the calling function and continues to execute the next statement following the function call. If a function is not called from the main function, then it won't be executed. In this example, the add function will not be executed since it is not called from the main function. Here are the list of benefits of functions. A complex program can be simplified by splitting that into different functions and chaining them through function calls. Programs written with several properly named functions are better readable than programs with only one main function having all the code. Identifying logical mistakes is easier if we implement programs as collection of functions. If any change needs to be made in the logic of the program, it is much easier if the program is made of multiple functions so that we can easily locate the function where the change needs to be made. Functions facilitate a type of declaration called local variables, which are efficient in memory utilization. You will understand this point when we discuss variables. Functions can be classified into two types: user-defined functions and library or built-in functions. User-defined functions are defined and called by us in our programs, whereas built-in functions are already defined in the header files and we only call them in our programs. Here there are two examples of function usages. In the first example, the user-defined main function calls the library function called printf, which is present in the stdio.h header file. In the second example, there is another user-defined function called callMe, which is called from the main function. So control will jump to the callMe function, execute the printf function, and will return back to the main function. But since there are no other statements in the main function, the program's execution will end immediately. We should develop the habit of writing programs with the several functions in addition to the main function.